All right, a lot of experienced players here. I recognize Haymaker, Avalon is of course one of my former teammates, Internet Explorer. So it should be a good game. I'm really curious to see what the OSP mix is like. We don't get too many games that have really experienced players on both sides, so we'll see what Avalon. I think Avalon is on the OSP team, and he's a Commodore, so I want to see what he brings in addition to his teammates, what the mix is looking like now. Oh shit. Thanks, Bad Llama. I did not know you could subscribe to me. What do I, can I like highlight this or something? I have no idea. All right. This is a really cool map, by the way. It's sort of made out to be like a heart shape. Like a real heart, not a, cheesy cartoon one. Well, thanks, man. And of course, the map name is called Aorta, so I actually don't know if this is, let's see. If I can remember my anatomy, there's supposed to be like 4 chambers. It looks like we have more than that, so it's probably not. Anyway, though, this is a Kel map. I'm a big fan of all the Kel maps. He has kind of a tendency to reuse textures, but the designs on them are good. This is interesting. You have these pillars. So theoretically, you could kind of slide all the way up or down one and kind of get an ambush that way. And then he also does these enormous wall sections. I've never seen any other maps besides his just say, okay, on this section of the map, there will be absolutely no movement because I'm going to make just a giant, huge ass wall. Did you get it first? Founder, 1 month subscriber. Wow. What a cool tag. Yeah, it's interesting because normally, I mean, even pillars and other standard maps, there are lanes to some extent, but you can go ways that people just don't expect. So by having such a big wall here, it really, is a statement that if you go like long outside flank here, you're just not going to be participating in the battle. So it controls a lot more where people can come from. I do like these holes he's cut out on the top and bottom so that it's not entirely a no-go zone. But it does. It's an interesting feature and very unique. I haven't seen any maps besides that is a map maker called Kel, and he's responsible for this. Plus a couple of other, definitely the best modded maps. Many of the best come from him. All right, let's go through the fleets. So we got a 450 Acello with a 450. Any missiles on this? No, a couple of utility containers. This, I'm not sure if the starter fleet, it has these same ships, but I don't know if this is the one. It's got Sarissas and Auroras. It might be modified slightly. I do like this fleet. You've got the 450 kind of ammo dump, and you've got the point defense Acello to help it out, and the LRT. Gotta shout out to the scouts. We do love that. Over here we have Internet Explorer with, I'm going to assume this is all the same thing. Yeah. So these are all 250 tugs. The 250s are kind of a supplementary weapon. Their real teeth are these missile launchers. So they are www. That's funny. Depending on how many points he's put into them, they might be Gales, something like that, a cheap missile. Or I've seen tug swarms fire, just decoy, you know, hell pods to go kill everything. This looks like Squadron Garnet, or Garnet Squadron, I get. Yeah, I recognize the PD setup there. Plasma's in a little bit of a bad place right now, but the T-30s, they're still good against light ships. Like these frigates, they'll have no problems attacking those. So, have to see. There are 2 BBs on the other side, though. So, could be rough for that fleet. Meanwhile, over here, this is another starter, it looks like. This is the one that comes with the 3 rocket CLs, I believe. Yep. Or slightly modified from it. And then this is a mine layer. Okay. Not too sure. Meanwhile, Avalon with a... looks like a mass driver? Destroyer?
The enemy is securing zone
Or railgun. I should say railgun. And a 450 cannon BB. And a beam on the back. I like this. This is a good flexible setup. You get to nose on with all your cannons. Tank everything in the nose. And then if a shuttle runs up on you or you want to go get into knife fight range, you can unmask that rear turret and put some hurt on there. I don't normally see that with a railgun, though. That's interesting. These, I'm going to guess, are... oh, it's a gun frigate swarm. Are they all gun frigates? Let's see. That's, yeah. A little bit of E-Wars mixed in here. So that'll be interesting. And a rail Axford along with... these are hybrid gun missiles. Not a huge fan of taking a destroyer and not putting a spinal weapon on it, but especially these because they're not really focused on it. I mean, they have the 250 cannons. What kind of missiles are these? They're just, yeah, like a really small complement of size 2s. And down here is a beam battleship. It's just an I'm here too cannon on the top. And with that is going to be a point defense corvette. I think the 250 on the belly here, this is just so iconic to me. It cuts a great figure, I think. I love that. Not that it's particularly strong or anything. It just looks cool. You know what I mean? So opening deployment. Both sides kind of a spread out formation. Looks like ANS has opted to have the majority of their fleets going to sea on the bottom. Meanwhile, OSP is kind of concentrated in the middle here. That's going to force a fight on this CE or CA line. Not too much radar hits are happening right now, but once they do find them, it looks like the tugs and the monitors are going to be the first to the fight, which might be unfortunate for this tug swarm. The tug swarm is best kind of coming in number 2 as a support, as a flanking force. They're not super tough. If they run into these gun frig swarms and the battleships, we'll have to see what his missiles are built like and if they're able to penetrate that. But I assume a death ball like that down there is not going to have any trouble dealing with the amount of missiles coming out of this. Granted, it is 8 tugs, but that's also a lot of ships. Let's just take a quick look at their PD. Yeah, I see stone walls there. I see defenders. You've got all the RPF coming out of all of these frigates. They've got stone walls also. So it will be a lot of PD fire coming out. We'll have to take a look. I'm curious what Avalon's play is up here. Some of the ANS ships are starting to be spotted. Not too much from the OSP is being spotted. Looks like these shuttles are being picked up. Those are in mid, right there. Ooh, I hope they're not going for a rocket strike. If they are not going to last long at all. And the monitor over there is happily mining E. Real quick, I just want to see what type of mines these are. Okay, they are sprint mines. I like sprint mines. It's difficult to say what the cost benefit on a sprint mine is. You know, obviously, if it goes off, it will probably hit, but they're easy to spot and easy to kill. These shuttles, oof, unfortunately, they're being RPF'd. Looks like they're trying to get away. This one might not. It's had its engine, its thrusters taken out. But okay, it does get away. Let's see, that could be interesting because the tug swarm is on top here. If these destroyers in this battleship feel like they want to go and push these shuttles, they're going to have a nasty surprise. Taking a look at the radar situation, all of the OSP is still unknown to the ANS. Meanwhile, the ANS have had a battleship spotted. They've had their DDs spotted. They know there's a swarm at sea for sure. Let's take a look what the approaches are going to be like. And yep, they are moving up through that central hole after the shuttles. We'll have to see. It's going to come down to this tug swarm. Okay, they've decided they wisely do not want to be the first ones into that fight. So they're backing off. A little bit of posturing now. Looks like these shuttles are just going to go around the corner, bide their time, see if anything comes directly at them, then dump their load and most likely die. But so is the lot in life of a rocket shuttle right now. Meanwhile, Avalon has gone back to his rock. Sort of interesting. I guess he plans to play this like a fire support battleship? Okay, is he actually shooting at something? Oh, they're firing at a decoy. Get decoyed. Love to see that. That must have come off of a line ship. There's no container ship. That's funny. It's always great to use the decoys when there's actually shuttles on the field. Then they don't know. If they haven't seen any real shuttles and they fired at some decoys, often ANS will just stop shooting at them entirely. Let's take a look around. So these are the missile gun DDs. They've gone and captured B. Looks like they're not interested in doing much else. This rail Axford, it's in a good position when it finally gets some fire control locks to actually shoot at something. Meanwhile, the OSP, the main thrust looks like it is going to, in fact, come from these tugs. Unless these monitors move up and do the tanking instead. Looks like they're pointed in the wrong direction and not moving. OSP is in the position where they can kind of wait this out. They do have the 3 caps, so they are slowly pulling ahead in points at this stage of the game. So it's really ANS move to see what they do. They're starting to separate a little bit. Are these shuttles maneuvering to try and get a strike off? It's probably not going to do much against the BB. If they catch these frigates unaware, though, they could definitely put one of those down. These mines are awfully close. Does this ship have more mines available? It has a couple still left. If it puts them right in here, right up against the rock, they might actually get some hits. And that Tug swarm's been spotted, so I'd expect some rail fire to be coming out here soon. Looks like this is the ship that is spotting them. And it's bravely running away right now. So, yep, and there they drop off radar. So more posturing, more setting up, more maneuvering. Here comes that BB. Maybe it's hard to tell what it wants to do. Oh, it spotted the mines. And these were just launched out of this monitor, so unfortunately, this monitor's probably going to get beamed here in a second and just die when the owner of this fleet realizes what's there. Might be preoccupied trying to track down these. Oh, he's got a fire control lock. There go the beams spinning around. And there comes the first one. No escape available for this. Oops. A little boop there. Drift gaming right into the rock. But it's helping out his beams fire even more. Here, oh, here comes the gun swarm. And there it goes. Okay, it's dead. Kind of an unfortunate pickup there. Especially knowing that the battleship was there to kind of push out there and try and get those mines. But I do commend him for trying. Meanwhile, the rest of the OSP still just sitting pretty. This Ocello, this line ship needs to get oriented better. Oh, here comes a rocket strike. I can already tell without even looking. It's not going to be working. Yep, no hits. So it looks like it will successfully run away, but it's not going to do any damage in the meantime. I'm really wondering where all this rail fire is going to go. They need to make something happen within the next 5 minutes here, or they're going to get into a situation where the points just won't be able to be recovered. So is there damage from booping? No. There's no ramming damage right now. So if a ship bumps into another ship or it grinds across a rock, nothing happens. It's a little bit immersion breaking, but that's how it is right now. Looks like, oh, this line ship, it doesn't know the battleship's there. It's been fire control locked. Any second now, a hailstorm of rails and 450 cannon fire are going to go into it. And it's really far ahead right now. Oh, it's realized its predicament. Here go the reverse thrusters. But here comes the cannon fire. Let's see if this ship is able to make it out. It needs to keep its orientation as much as possible so that these cannon shells don't take out its thrusters. This is a good angle right here to try and protect them. Getting hit amidships with a couple of 450s isn't such a big deal, but if you're trying to run away and you've pointed your nose directly at them and they blow off your thrusters, well, now you're crawling away in reverse, which is not a good situation at all. And it looks like both of these ships now have realized that this is a place they don't want to be. And they're both going to back out. Hopefully they have... Okay, they did break the fire control lock, which is going to make these shells really inaccurate. Shouldn't be a problem for the Ocello to dodge and tank most of them. There goes some of the thrusters like I was talking about. You can see already the speed is dropping. Nope, but here comes some damage control teams to get that back. And here come the tugs. This is going to be an interesting situation. We've got this battleship right here. It's ready to spring into action. This is the beam battleship. Meanwhile, the cannon battleship is firing also. So depending on how the OSP responds to this, now granted there are monitors here. Plasma is really bad against battleships right now though. Yeah, that's right, Cadence. You can absolutely turn on rocks. I'm not good enough to do that, but the people who are, it is very funny to see a battleship do a 180 in 15 seconds because it rammed a rock. Here comes the 250 fire out, so they know something is down there. Okay, they do have the BB. If they have intelligence on it, they will have spotted it now. So everything in this entire fleet should be orienting towards firing on it. Meanwhile, the gun frigate swarm is moving up. The cannon battleship is moving in. The rail battleship is moving in. So now it's on. OSP is kind of enveloped here, at least a half envelopment. They're being shot from multiple different directions. It's really not good for the ships that are eating this 450 cannon fire. And yep, those T-30s take out that frigate very, very quickly, but eating 450s to the side of a monitor, once these start hitting, they're going to do hugely debilitating damage. It's taking rail fire too. It might not even be able to move and escape at this point. Here come the debuffs. They're still firing at that dead. And here comes the push. Oh my. Oh lordy, here they come. We'll have to see what the target priority is here. It looks like all the 450 fire is wisely going into the battleship. Meanwhile, the return fire is going into the monitors. Maybe not the best of choice. These tugs would be a lot easier to kill, and they are very, very dangerous. The monitors can't really push out a huge amount of damage very quickly against heavily armored targets. They are going to try and dump their plasma as much as they can before they die into this battleship. The 250s look like they're targeting the frigates. No return fire is going anywhere from the AMS team except onto these monitors. So I'll expect these to be dead soon. Meanwhile, there's more and more fire being poured onto this battleship. They definitely want to kill it. It absolutely is the highest threat on the board. But if they spend too much time without being able to deal crippling damage to it, the gunfrig swarm and this cannon battleship and this rail Ocello will be able to pick enough of the OSP ships off that they'll be able to win the game off of that. This is definitely the fight for everything right now. The DDs are coming in. Here comes the missiles. Obviously, they're heading towards the battleship. Let's see if they can make it. Oh, a little bit too close there. And there they go. Oh my God. Lord Jesus, there's a fire. Scratch one, BB. Oh. I have no idea where the point defense fire was. You know, most of the point defense was concentrated in RPF. All of these cannons were already shooting at the monitors. They weren't able to help at all. The stone walls, oh no. Only one stone wall was on that side. The rest of these mounts are being taken up by an antenna there. I think this stone wall probably didn't even fire. What a massacre. Goodness. Yeah, that BB is 110% dead. Looks like some counterfire coming out here. Those hybrids. Oh, another rocket strike. So much is happening right now. Looks like it's not going to be able to do anything against the DDs, but the story of the moment is that battleship absolutely eating it. It is still taking 450 fires. I mean, just look at this thing. The 250 tugs should have no problem engaging the frigates now. The monitors, everything is still being poured onto this poor, poor battleship. Here comes another missile strike. Looks like these are going for the DDs. There's not a lot of point defense available on them. I think they have one stone wall each. We'll go ahead and get close up in on this one. Yep, there goes the stonewall fire. It's going to take out some, but it's not going to take out enough. There they go, slamming in. It's weird to not see any chaff or any kind of soft kill going out here. I have to assume that these are some kind of radar-guided missile. Although it could have... Oof. There goes the reactor exploding all over these frigates. A terrible, terrible turn of events. All of their armor is cooked off. They're eating it from every direction. So what was a promising push for OSP has been completely Uno reversed by these tugs dumping into that battleship. Here come even more missiles. Good God. And now the frigates are correctly firing their RPF, but it's too little too late. More missiles strike home. These frigates are not long for the world. Let's take a little bit of a damage assessment. Even these monitors have managed to survive. This one's in excellent shape despite being a stone's throw distance away from that fur ball. So for a grand total of 2 monitors, one of which was the mine from earlier, a shuttle, and a plasma T30 monitor, the OSP team has completely devastated the ANS team. Granted, these frigates aren't out of the fight. They are returning fire. They are doing what they can against this, but they're unfortunately a little bit fixated on these monitors. Meanwhile, the tugs are at this point pushing out way more damage from these 250 cannons than this tug is, most likely. And they're getting shredded in return. The Ocello isn't too happy. It's the one bearing the brunt of the 450 fire from the battleship. It is backing off. It's doing a great job. Ocellos from front angle, slightly off angle like this, or even directly nose on, are so, so tough. It's going to take the battleship a long time to kill an Ocello like this. Meanwhile, it's going to slide back around behind. Counterfire coming out of the line ship looks like it's targeting, I'm going to guess, the destroyer. Normally, a destroyer would be hands down the bigger threat, especially at this range. It's approaching beam range, but little do they know it's actually a rail DD. Well, it looks like this cannon BB, it's holding its own. What the Ocello gains in maneuverability and dodging, obviously the battleship makes up for it with hecka-chunk armor all over it. And it just does not care that this 450 HE is being fired at it. Probably a better choice to go with AP. I think it's AP anyway. I always mix it up. I think HE is yellow and AP is green. But I might have that reverse. Oh, even more missiles! Oh, and they're going on the underside. Absolutely none of the point defense fires at all. The front of the battleship is erased. Here come the tugs after this DD. It's going to die in a second. Boom, already dead. There's nothing to say other than oof. None of the point defense fired at all. All of those missiles right on the belly. Big, big oof. Yeah, unfortunately, once you give a command to the cannons, especially, I think he had, it's a little bit hard to see through the smoke and devastation here. Depending on where your bullseye is, so his is on his nose here. The game once you give a fire command to your weapons, the ship kind of takes over with its own AI and will override any kind of heading and roll commands that you might have given to the ship. So it can be just a situation where, you know, the AI has rolled your ship a certain way and you can't do anything about it unless you're keeping a very close eye on it and expecting missiles to come long before they ever do come, because obviously to roll a battleship takes a long time. It's not like you can hit a button. Yeah, I think the tugs are out of missiles though. Yeah, the tugs are, well, they still have a couple left. They're basically done. I mean, this battleship isn't out of the fight. Yeah, its front half is blown off, but it has tons of restores. The problem is, if there were only tugs remaining, I'd say, you know, yeah, this battleship can probably get back in it, but it's being shot by an Ocello and a 450 line ship. So the odds that it can get back into fighting shape are a little bit lower. If I was OSP, though, I would be concentrating fire on it. I suppose they still have this 450 line ship on it. And the tugs, you know, 250 is capable of penetrating. It doesn't do a great job, but it can. Meanwhile, this Ocello instead has chosen to focus on this gun frig swarm. Our first surrender came out. That was the beam battleship. Oh, there goes Avalon. Yep, he decided that after that 450 fire and everything, he'd throw in the towel. The points are close, but the fleet power is not. The tonnage is just... what happened to the Rains blob? They just got picked apart. There's T-30 monitors here. You can see one is firing. There's Ocellos. I didn't really focus on this one because it was in the back, but this is a 450 Ocello. It's been fighting the entire time. This Ocello's come down as well. There's just too much to deal with. They've backed off. They have been in a state of backing off for the past couple minutes, just getting chewed apart little by little. Yeah, definitely something like... So a BB does have a lot of point defense on it natively, but depending on what's going on at the moment, and depending on how the missiles are designed, if there's jamming happening, if you're distracted, it can really make a big difference. So that's one of the reasons why sticking ships together and making a big fleet buildup like that is good. The specific problem that happened to this beam battleship is it had all of those gun frigs that were with it and kind of providing an escort. But unfortunately, most of their defense was built around RPF. I mean, they had a couple stone walls, but it wasn't a ton of it. And because of that, so stone walls are flat cannons, if I'm talking and that doesn't make sense. So they had some flat cannons, but they had a lot of cannons that can fire dual purpose. Like they can shoot HE shells to try and kill a ship, or they can shoot like a flak that will destroy missiles. And they had set all of their guns on these monitors to try and kill them, you know, rightly as they do. But because that happened, their ability to provide point defense cover for the battleship was greatly reduced. And, you know, I'm not blaming that player or anything. I think the whole thing, in theory, pushing like that is fine. But as a result of not having that extra bit of point defense fire, that definitely contributed to that battleship eating so much. What happened with Avalon is the missiles came in from underneath. So there is a blind spot on the battleship, and it happens to be right here at this angle that I'm looking at. You can see, like, if you were to fire a missile strike here, you can see there's a turret, there's a turret, there's a turret. If you see the turret, it sees you, kind of deal, right? But if we twist over here, well, now all those turrets vanished. I mean, there's 2 on the nose, but nothing else can fire. And because of that specific orientation, that's what happened to that battleship, which is rare. I mean, those tugs fired those missiles, I guarantee, without knowing that the ship was rolled that way. I mean, unless they were screen cheating, but I don't think they were doing that. It just kind of happened like that. But I mean, they definitely played well. Not every missile strike goes down that effective. So a little bit of luck was involved for sure. But, you know, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And yeah, missiles are very, very swingy. Either they don't do much and you kind of feel like the points are wasted because they all get shot down by point defense, or they just erase somebody. And there's not too much in the middle. I've said it before through different forums that I kind of wish they brought down the like maximum launch amount so that we could get missiles that were a little bit better at piercing point defense, but not in a huge amount. Like right now, you know, either nothing hits or 50 missiles hit. And I'd like to see more, you know, 1 or 2 missiles get by, 1 or 2 missiles get by, something like that. It is kind of unfortunate, though, in addition to everything else, like, you can fire so many so quickly that even if only 1 or 2 get through, you can always follow it up with another wave that will do a lot more. Yeah, the game was over quite a bit ago. So, I mean, well played to OSP. They kept their ships alive. They tanked them appropriately. They maneuvered appropriately. MVP definitely goes out to Internet Explorer. Some of that was luck. A lot of it, though, was him building good missiles and firing them at good times. Because if he fires them at the moment that battleship pops up, you know, maybe those frigates aren't engaging those monitors and they shoot them all down. So with that little bit of patience and discretion, getting that wave out when it went out and erasing that battleship, I mean, that just makes all the difference. I will say Avalon, his battleship dying, that was definitely more luck than anything else. Yeah. Like I mentioned, all of these frigates, I mean, we can just really quickly go through. Like this one had nothing but Mark 62 cannons. These are dual purpose. They can shoot at ships or they can shoot at missiles at the time they were shooting at ships. This one only Mark 64s. Same story. Same story again and again and again. Oh, I'm not looking at the point defense. Okay, so this one had 2 Sarissas. Sarissas aren't good at all. These fire like a railgun point defense cannon. Same there. So there were 2 Stonewalls, and they destroyed 28 missiles, right? That's pretty good, but there were only 2 of them available in that whole frigate fleet. The rest of the point defense power comes from all these dual-purpose cannons that were busy shooting ships instead of shooting missiles. And, you know, I'm not saying had he cleared fired and focused on shooting down the missiles instead, that would have wiped out all of them, but it probably would have been able to kill some of them, hopefully enough that that battleship doesn't just absolutely die. And when you're talking about enormous waves like that, especially coming out of tugs can't carry that many missiles. If it had been coming out of a line ship, that might have been a different story. But the tugs, if you take out one of their missile waves or force them to spend one more missile wave in order to kill something, that can really reduce their effectiveness. It still would have been an uphill battle if all the missiles from the tug went into killing that battleship instead of, I think he fired like a mini salvo against frigates and then one other salvo against the cannon battleship. If all those missiles go into killing that one beam battleship, it's still a hard game, but it's a winnable game. And instead, because that battleship just died so quickly, he had the ammo reserves left over to delete some frigates and take out that other cannon battleship. And at that point, it's pretty much over.